Mr. President, you've said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn.
Oh my God.
We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to
Oh my
get it going
God.
eventually, where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it can be a diamond. It can be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East.
Elon and Trump live. Wait, what's up?
They looked, I mean, they'll get better. But
Elon's in there?
They're in rough shape. They were treated really badly, and we've heard things from them since. And I think the reason that Hamas is playing so cute is because they saw the reaction to these.
Because you told them that you were going to take over Gaza.
The one young lady had her hand blown off practically, and they were not in great shape either.
What is this DEI audio? True.
Fingers and a big part of her hand. You know what she did? She was stopping a bullet that was aimed at her. She went like that, and it blew off her hand. Now, I think I think they want time, because I think the people that they have living are in.
Now those hostages are
The most healthy people out, because they don't want to send the least healthy people out. And there was
I don't know if he even considered the implications for these hostages when he announced this plan. Even if this was his plan, why wouldn't you keep it secret and do it sort of like there's a way you could do what he was trying to do without like blasting it out to the world. You know, you can just do it behind the scenes and take all these steps and people will catch on eventually or whatever. But when he made this announcement, like, how did he not realize he was immediately putting all of the lives of those hostages in immediate jeopardy? Why would you give up any of these hostages if you're Hamas? At this point, why would you do that? You have no more leverage. Like, once you announce your intention to annex Gaza, like, what does Hamas have to agree to at that point? They're just going to kill everybody.
Saving 2,000 young children from the Gaza Strip. We didn't know about that. You didn't know about that. Nobody did, except for the king and his son. I assume you told your son, right? And I just thought it was great. No.
The king of Jordan in this press conference announced that Jordan would take in 2,000 Gazan children out of 1.7 million people. You're just kind of, you know, your till's about 3/4 too short there, right? Like,
you consider other countries, not Jordan and Egypt. There was talks about Indonesia, Albania, other places.
Yeah.
Just a purely symbolic gesture. 2,000 kids out of 1.7 million people. What's the math on that? What is that? Close to 1%, right?
Great sense of wanting to help the Palestinians.
Or is it 0.1%? What's the math on that?
Good countries out there, people that rule those countries with big hearts, and this gentleman is at the top of the list.
Oh, it's 0.1%, right?
How are you going to force him, Mr. President?
Oh, they're going to be great. They're going to be very happy.
Can you
Your
give us
Majesty, Your Majesty, should we
May I-
expect that the
may I-
Jordanian response would be part of a coordinated Arab response?
The response will be from a multitude of countries, Arab, international. I know the Europeans want to step in. And again, we'll probably have to look to the help of the United States to make sure that COGAT, which is the clearing agency on the Israeli side, makes it as efficient as possible, because 2,000 kids, the best way to get to them is by helicopters and get them straight to our institutions. And I also believe that quite a few countries also probably like to take some of those kids and have them treated in their hospitals.
Are these orphans? Are these orphans?
Yes, and that's right. This should have been done by the Biden administration, but, you know, they didn't do anything. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. So this should have been done by the Biden administration.
What the hell?
This should have never happened, because October 7th would have never happened. If I were president, zero chance of happening. You wouldn't have had that whole mess where the Middle East got blown up. And
Again, you can very easily make the argument that Donald Trump's actions when he was president the first time directly led to October 7th.
there, I think. I really think we're making some very good progress.
Mr. President, you've said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn.
Oh my
We're gonna
God.
take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to
Oh my
get it going
God.
eventually, where A lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it can be a diamond. It can be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East, and you're going to have peace.
Oh
It's
my
gonna bring
God.
peace in the Middle East. Gaza, the way it is right now, every 10 years you're going to have the same thing happening. I've watched it so long, all the death and destruction of Gaza. The civilization's been wiped out in Gaza. No, it's going to be a tremendous.
What the Arab population is going to do when America rolls in with boots on the ground and starts flying American flags in Gaza, what the Arab population is going to do is that's going to make the intifadas look quaint in comparison.
Can you clarify again, sir? How do you feel about the U.S. taking Gaza, as the president said?
Well, again, this is something that we, as Arabs, will be coming to the United States with something that we're going to talk about later to discuss.
He's got to play this so carefully here.
Take it under what authority? It is sovereign territory.
Under the U.S. authority.
What does that mean?
Would you seek to personally develop property in Gaza after this happens?
No, I've had a great
Under
career in
U.S.
real estate.
authority? I don't know what that means.
You know, when you've done what I've done in the last number of years, including the 4 years that we should have been doing something else, frankly, because people see that now for sure. But when you've done what I've done, you can just do more good for people when you're president. When you're president, we can do things. This is all things that should have been done, but actually things that shouldn't have had to be done. Gaza, absolutely, it would have been so great if the Biden administration would have started this. But actually, in all fairness to them, it was. They should have never let it happen. It did happen, and because of the fact that they let this happen, this catastrophe of October 7th, something like this becomes practical and very real, meaning the development and all of the things that I've talked about with respect to the Gaza Strip.
There are going to be so many terrorist attacks if we actually do this, bro. I mean, it's going to be.
It was a horror.
There will never be.
Probably you wouldn't be.
There will be more violence in that situation than there is like current. Well, I don't know about currently, but like
Stability and peace to the Middle East, and
they will never go for this.
when it's developed.
They will never, ever,
quite a while
ever go for this.
We want to.
And the King of Jordan has to play it super careful right now. He can't say, well, you know, I support this, because his own population would revolt. You know, none of the leaders of these Arab countries are going to go on the record and say that they like this idea. So they're going to, because their own people would be like, what the fuck?
Back. There are going to be people who want to go back and feel like that it is their right to do that. You haven't said, will there be any type of repercussions?
Or Marco Rubio.
We don't think that's going to happen. We think we think people are going to be very happy, thrilled. A lot of those people that you're talking about are going to end up maybe living there and maybe working there, but it'll be in a different form. We have had tremendous support for this project, and we think the biggest asset of the project, it's going to bring peace ultimately to the Middle East. All right.
Mr. President, one last question.
Go ahead, behind you. And you've asked enough.
Mr. President, one of your promises on the campaign trail is to bring peace to the Middle East. It was a promise to your Arab voters here. The Arab voters in the United States oppose this. What do you say to them?
Well, you know, if you look at Michigan, where we have a large Arab population, as you know, I was just telling the king.
They are not happy, for the record.
As you know, I won the Arab population.
Is he aware that they're
Started
pissed?
off, I wasn't leading, and when I finished, a few months later, we started campaigning in Michigan. And when I finished, we won it by a tremendous amount, by 30 points. And my relationship with the Arab population has been fantastic.
He did not win it by 30 points, for the record. I
With the Middle East
don't
is
think that's
very
true.
good. Very
Is it
good
true?
with all the countries.
Maybe it's true.
Just about all the countries. Let's see. I would say all the countries. And they all want to do something, and they want to see peace in the Middle East. All the stories you hear about the Middle East not really wanting peace, that they want war, they want this, they want to go a certain place. Let me tell you, those stories are false. They want
30
peace.
30 points is
I
his
know
default?
very
Yeah, I
well.
agree with
They
that.
want to have peace. They want to have a good life like other people. And this will be a big factor in bringing peace to the Middle East. Thank you very much, everybody.
Unbelievable. Somebody asked how you can draw a straight line from Trump's first term to October 7th. Well, there's a few reasons for that. One of you guys mentioned moving the embassy to Jerusalem. That's a part of it, but the much bigger part of why Trump can be, I think you can assign blame for October 7th to Trump is because the Trump administration, for the first time around, they broke with decades of U.S. foreign policy, established foreign policy. It had been established foreign policy for the United States for decades to support a two-state solution with respect to Israel, West Bank, and Gaza. And then there's like some conflict about how Jerusalem would be divvied up as well. That was actually a huge sticking point during the negotiations and all of the accords. Donald Trump actually went in there and said, you know what? We're not even going to tackle the problem of a Palestinian state. We're not even going to think about that. We are only going to focus on normalizing relations, which is what they were trying to do with the Abraham Accords. They just wanted to focus on normalizing relations between the neighboring Arab states and Israel. And they were able to successfully do that with countries like the UAE and Qatar, working on Saudi Arabia, which would have been huge. That would have led to other states following suit. And what they did was they offered the Palestinian Authority basically a bribe to just, eat shit. Like, give up on the Palestinian state, but we're going to give you $400 billion in investments so you can develop the infrastructure there and blah, 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 blah. This created an enormous problem for Hamas. One of the things that keeps Hamas strong is an appetite for a Palestinian state, keeping that struggle for statehood alive. Of course, Hamas, they want a one-state solution, right? Like, they want to just get rid of Israelis altogether and just take over the entire country and whatever. But for the first time ever in American foreign policy, we just completely iced Palestinians out of negotiations. Netanyahu is also responsible as well. Like, for example, he announced that he was basically just going to fucking take over about a third of the West Bank. Like, we're just going to build settlements in a third of the West Bank, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. Even Trump didn't co-sign that the first term. Even Trump was like, well, I don't know if we support that. And Netanyahu said, we're just going to do it. And this provoked Qatar to reach out, or Qatar, however you say that, to reach out and say, okay, tell you what, don't annex a third of the West Bank and we will normalize relations with you. And so Netanyahu backed off of that, but Trump, he created the conditions so that the Palestinians felt like their plight had been forgotten on the world stage. Palestinians have enjoyed support from a lot of countries in their pursuit of sovereignty, statehood, independence, right to self-determination. And Trump just took that off the table altogether. Like, you know what? Don't even talk about the Palestinian state. It's too much of a headache. Let's just skip all that and just directly try to normalize relations. And then, of course, when he moved, I mean, that is ultimately, I think, what led to the great March of Return in 2018 or 2019. It wasn't so much the move of moving the embassy to Jerusalem, which was a really provocative move. It was the fact that Palestinians felt like they had been forgotten. And so that's not to say that, Hamas had no choice but to murder, 300 people at a rave. They're evil. Like, Hamas is just pure evil. And they are accountable for their actions. And I don't feel bad for any Hamas person that died after what they did. But it's just patently the case that Trump created the conditions that led to this sense of urgency. Hamas felt like we're running out of time. And if Israel normalizes relations with Saudi Arabia, they felt like that was really kind of the final domino that would drop, and it would just create a cascading effect. And then basically, if Saudi Arabia normalizes relations, and basically excluding Iran, of course, but basically every other neighboring Arab country would also follow suit and normalize relations. And at that point, what leverage does Hamas or the Palestinian Authority have? At that point, they've just been completely forgotten. And so, yeah, I think you can obviously, I think you can blame Trump for October 7th. I mean, he's not 100% to blame, but he contributed greatly to why that event happened.
A lot of people thought it was a great idea. Really, a lot of people. And I'm not talking about big money I just think it will be stabilized if the United States owns the Gaza Strip. If people aren't living in the Gaza Strip and Hamas isn't there because nobody's there, people aren't there, nobody's going to be there. And later on, it can be developed. You'll give some to Saudi Arabia.
So you're not saying U.S. troops?
No, you don't need no, Israel will watch it because it's right next to Israel.
And what's the time frame? You have a time frame?
I would say let it start almost immediately. I would like to.
What a a wild proposition. He's saying we're just going to take Gaza by what he called U.S. authority, and Israel will be responsible for the security of our territory. I mean, literally, I don't know how this could get, I really don't know how this could get any worse. Like that proposition is so insane. That is insane. And I don't know if Netanyahu would agree to something like that, even though they're the largest beneficiary of U.S. foreign assistance. I'm pretty sure Netanyahu would be like, well, you know, if you're going to take that over, you guys got to be in charge of that. I mean, why would we do that, right?